Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you guys are doing well. Today, we are going to be talking about Mars entering the sign of Gemini, and it's going to be making a conjunction to Uranus. So, therefore, we are going to be experiencing a new cycle between Uranus and Mars, and that cycle is going to last for 2 years. So actually, this is a little bit more than that. It's going to be quite important that Mars goes into the sign of Gemini because it's going to be activating that mini grand trine that is happening between the outer planets, which I should be making a separate video about. By the way, you're almost going to see me every single day this upcoming month because July is so busy, so intense, so life changing. Some remarkable things are happening in the sky. So we're going to have to be breaking that down for all of you, generally speaking, as well as for the 12 signs. So we have got some exciting times ahead of us. But let's get going what exactly we are seeing. So hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is AstroViktor. In case you don't know me yet and you are new to my channel, then welcome here. I talk about astrology. I'm a teacher. I'm an author. I try to give you as much knowledge as possible. I try to give you as many practical scenarios as possible so that you can really build the channel or the energy into your life. Make sure you subscribe, press the notification bell, as well as press that like button and make a comment, because those are all helping the algorithm to be able to grow my channel. But on the 29th, we have a major shift in the cosmic energy as Mars officially moves into the sign of Gemini. Whenever Mars changes sign, the way we take action, chase goals, or handle frustration undergoes a bit of a makeover. So, for the last 7 weeks or so, Mars has been in a slow, steady, kind of cautious sign named Taurus. And you might have felt you were pushing kind of like you were pushing a rock uphill. Actions took a lot more effort and things moved kind of like at snail's pace. Now, Mars is hitting the accelerator actually as it enters the sign of Gemini. Gemini is the sign of communication, multitasking, ideas, short distance movements, the way we communicate with others. So, when you mix a fiery planet, an aggressive, a driven planet, Mars, with this fast moving kind of like mental energy of Gemini, action pretty much becomes language. It kind of tells you that action is louder than, or words are louder than action, basically. But here, instead of physical muscle, your sharpest tool becomes your mind, your mouth, your tongue. Your thoughts are going to move way faster. Your tolerance for boredom is going to plummet a little bit, and your desire to start new projects, network, absorb information, most likely is going to skyrocket. So let's talk about how this actually plays out in real life, because Mars in Gemini shows up in a very specific way, really. So one can be a trap, which is the multi-project trap. So you're going to feel this sudden urge of motivation to start 5 different things at once. You will want to reorganize your office, start a new online course, update your resume, plan a weekend trip, for example, all in the same afternoon. So the trap here is scattered energy. Plenty of initiatives, but very little kind of finish through. Words can become a weapon as well, because Gemini rules communication. Mars here sharpens your tongue. So in business or personal life, negotiations can move really fast. You will find the right words instantly, but be careful because arguments can spark out of nowhere because people will react. People will speak way faster than they think. It's kind of like when your tongue slips, basically. And imagine this as your mind being on fire. So if you've been feeling mentally stuck or blocked, this transit is like a double shot of espresso, really, for your brain. It is perfect for brainstorming, writing, and pitching presentations and ideas to others, or even content creation also. But just make sure it's kind of like when your email is kind of like, it's not clearing out ever. So you can be receiving a lot of emails. Now, navigating these fast-moving transits, I think, requires quite a solid strategy. So don't burn out your nervous system or scatter your efforts. Because if you really want to understand how to channel this massive surge of mental energy into actual success, you know what? Actually, I've got an incredible opportunity for you. For a very limited time, I'm offering a massive 50% off of my exclusive membership. Instead of the usual price, you can get full access to 220 comprehensive courses and webinars for just $600. And you can watch them as many times as you wish for a year. And I think this is everything you need to be able to master, like predictive cycles, to understand your chart better, certain type of transit strategies, or just the practical applications at your own space. But if you aren't looking for the experience of that full academy, you need direct personal clarity on, let's say, where Mars is activating your specific path this season. I'm also offering 30% off a private reading with me. And we will look into directly at your personal blueprint just to kind of map out the best moves of the year. I think this is a very important year, actually. There is a lot going on in the sky. After 2020, I believe this is the second most important year of the decade. So you might want to be grabbing a personal reading with me so that I can support you as much as possible. My website is AstroViktor.com, and the links are going to be in the chat box below. So grab your spot or your membership before the discount expires, and let's get you aligned for the second half of the year. But let's just talk about this transit because this is actually super important. So Mars entering the sign of Gemini. So we covered a couple of traits of those, right? So we've got a bit of a scattered brain, but also we are pursuing our ideas, for example. It's actually quite a flirtatious position as well. So this is great to go on dates and so forth. But it's going to be running into a conjunction with Uranus. And that's happening on July 3rd or 4th, 2026, depending on where you are, on 4-degree Gemini, just a few days after Mars crosses the threshold into this sign. So we've got this very raw, kind of like driving physical energy of Mars, fuses with that erratic, sudden, kind of liberating impulses of Uranus. So imagine this as an electric current hitting a lightning rod. Because this is happening at the start of Mars' journey through Gemini, it's actually setting up quite a volatile or fast-paced tone for the entire transit. I would call this transit as kind of like the circuit breaker effect. Uranus is like a cosmic fuse box. So when Mars applies aggressive pressure to it, things snap very easily. So in daily life, this looks like sudden disruption to tech, sudden breakdowns in negotiations and communications, unexpected twists in travel plans as well. This energy brings an overwhelming urge to break free from any type of intellectual or professional stagnation. It feels like that many of us will make very sudden, kind of like unexpected announcements, or we are going to be quitting projects that bore you, or launch radical new ideas entirely out of the blue. Of course, it highly depends on where it is happening in your natal chart, which I might be joining tomorrow live, and then we can actually talk about that. Because Gemini rules the nervous system and communication. This combination can trigger immense restlessness, kind of verbal impulsiveness as well. The temper is kind of like flaring up in a split second, really. And that could be leading to very sharp, very reactive kind of like arguments that people didn't see coming, actually. So this is a massive twist to the story. Think of Mars as kind of like the accelerator pedal, and Uranus is like that sudden lightning stroke. So, and Gemini is a super fast sign as well. So it becomes quite explosive. It becomes quite unpredictable as well. Also remember that Mars and Gemini make approximately 3 or 4 conjunctions in the same sign. So the previous conjunctions happened in the sign of Taurus. So where did we experience certain type of disruptions? That was connected to finances, for example. So that volatility now walks into the topic of communication. So we can be expecting shocking headlines, sudden shifts in media, or abrupt changes even in your daily schedule. The key to handling this without kind of like frying your nervous system is remaining flexible. For example, when it comes to your schedule, don't pack it with too many things at once, because of course that could kind of represent a bit of a detour in your week coming ahead. So that's actually very important. Now, adding to it, it is happening on 4 degrees of Gemini. So the first 2.5 degrees of the sign is always the purest form of the sign. The second 2.5 degrees, meaning between 2:30 to 5 degrees, is actually the next sign in sequence. So actually, there is a little segment here. That's a Cancerian segment. I'm going to call it as Dwad or Dwad, basically. So while Gemini wants to argue using logic, data, clever words, or even wit, the Cancer dwarf injects deep emotions, a bit of a tribal loyalty, an instinct to protect the home, protect the country, protecting the family, or even your personal security. So it really feels like that this isn't just about fighting for kind of like an abstract concept, it is fighting for what people care about emotionally. So it's kind of like you are telling someone that, sorry, you are wrong. You are threatening my safety, my people. It's kind of like when you're saying, I'm feeling very attacked. There's an emotional outburst here as well, because Mars and Uranus are highly volatile together. Anchoring them in a Cancer micro slice of that pie means that sudden breakthroughs or snaps will feel super personal, defensive. It can make you highly moody as well. It's kind of like rationality goes out of the window. Often it's like I'm feeling threatened somehow. What does it mean in plain English? It means that even though this energy is happening in a very rational, logical air sign like Gemini, it carries a deep, powerful emotional undertone. So there is a fuse happening, and then that fuse is kind of like blown out because I'm feeling very threatened. And therefore, we are going to be defending our home. And Uranus and Mars, like I said several times, it's highly volatile. So, I can imagine some demonstrations happening with Uranus and Mars in our home countries or because of a country, for example. Even it could indicate that if anyone threatens my boundaries or my nest, then the reaction will be incredibly sharp as well. It also means that there is a mental restlessness of Gemini, and it might indicate certain type of sleepless nights also. Now, what's very interesting about this Mars is, though, that it makes a trine to Pluto at the same time. It makes a sextile to Neptune, and of course, it makes a conjunction to Uranus as well. So, therefore, that outer mini grand trine is getting activated at the same time. So it's not all chaotic actually. This can be actually harmonious because it feels like that radical solutions are kind of like showing up in our life. So let's say if you are planning or if you have been planning a major shift, let's say in your business or in your life, this is actually a cosmic green light. Pluto in Aquarius brings the change, the systematic change. Neptune in Aries brings the visionary courage. Mars Uranus in Gemini provides that fast execution to it. So I'm imagining some massive upgrades in tech and systems, for example. This could be a perfect time to completely overhaul your digital systems, automation, platforms, communication strategies. What used to take months to figure out, maybe just one click, and then it's all getting sorted. But also it feels like that you are feeling inspired. Neptune gives that vision, and Pluto in Aquarius might be giving you a great idea in a way, or a sense of purpose. And then Mars and Uranus is like an accelerator. So I want to go after it. So I think it's the real magic of Mars, that it activates all these societal changes in the world. Changes are never easy though. The outer planets always feel a little bit heavy, right? They are all about reshaping our world. But Mars acts as a catalyst to turn that background energy into a real world action. It's like Mars is pulling the trigger on the future. So we should be seeing massive changes in the next couple of years. And I'm very curious to see how that's going to be happening. However, I'm going to be making a separate video about these grand trines. I want to go back a little bit more connected to this Uranus and Mars conjunction, because I want to be focusing a little bit more on the personal level. So on a personal level, and in a positive way, for me, it also represents someone who is ready to break through from any type of control issues as well. What I mean by that is that if you have been kind of like belittled, because often Mars is treated like a bit of a toddler energy. Uranus says, I'm getting tired of that. I'm not willing to do such things anymore. So that's one major action there. I think Mars in Gemini makes our way of thinking a lot quicker. When it comes to our communication, we are a lot more bold. We are a lot more flexible as well. I think it can make people super busy. I think you can have a great appetite for learning and conversation. So remember, you have got the chance to learn with me right now. 220 very comprehensive courses and webinars for only $600, and you can watch it for a year. So I think you won't find a better deal than that. Check it out on my website, AstroViktor.com. But also, this is a brilliant time for networking and idea sharing. And the downfall of it could be that we are making a decision without thinking it through. It's also brilliant to travel a little bit around, maybe visiting neighborhood countries and so forth. And also, I can imagine that your interest is getting sparked up. So you are kind of like trying to place your finger in many, many pies. So there's the scatteredness there. I think the very higher manifestation of this is versatility, and you are able to multitask in a very productive way, yes. Or it can bring debates, but these debates can be very constructive as well. It could be very eye-opening. You might be just getting some insights, for example, by reading a book. I think the negative side of it is getting into gossip and then believing whatever you see on social media. And there could be a lot of arguments as well, but those arguments would be fueled by certain type of impatience because I want to cut through. So, so I feel like with this aspect, it's very important that many of us are going to try to focus on one or two things at once rather than trying to do many, many things at the same time. So prioritizing things is going to be super important. Also, it feels like there is an information overload happening with this aspect pattern. So how, what piece of information do I need? How to kind of can separate them? And the danger of it is that Neptune, which is kind of like believing in things. So we can believe every single information that we have got right in front of us. The best course of action is if you write things down so that you don't forget them, and don't forget to listen, because it's very much about just, I want to be talking, and just avoid unnecessary arguments. What's also super interesting is that Mars enters the sign of Gemini, but previous day it made a sextile to Jupiter. So, and it was still in the sign of Taurus. So it left with a lot of wisdom. And as soon as Mars moves into Gemini, Jupiter will be moving into the sign of Gemini as well. But what I also find very interesting, and that's the reason why in the next 1 week you are going to be seeing me every single day. So please don't forget to sign up to my channel, subscribe, like the video, ring the notification bell, because the ruler of Gemini, Mercury, is stationing retrograde also on the same day, 29th of June. So that's going to be my next topic that I want to be talking to you about. Of course, that's going to be also super important. But a quick mention about that, even though we've got a lot of new ideas, a lot of new intuitive hits with those Mars and Uranus conjunctions, but expect certain type of delays. So that's the reason why we have to be stopping a little bit. We don't have to be rushing to launch something and so forth, because Mercury goes retrograde. We're going to have to be able to revisit as well. Or people that you used to have arguments with could be coming back into your life as well. This is a period of time a little bit to revise plans, revise expectations as well. Or if you had arguments with someone a couple of weeks ago, for example, then this could be talking to us about having to kind of finish off that argument. Maybe it's the last hooray. Let's sit down, let's talk it through. Let's have greater clarity, because greater clarity is going to come to us through certain type of reflection. It's not necessarily that easy when Uranus and Mars are being involved. Okay, so Mercury is going to go retrograde, by the way, in the sign of Cancer. But more on that later on. Of course, we are going to be checking up on that in a couple of days, because I want to make sure that you have got a great understanding of these upcoming energies. Now, let's talk a little bit more on Mars in Gemini. So just a tad more. I don't want to keep you for hours. My last live video was 4 hours, so I don't want to keep you there. But I'm kind of like imagining a bit of an information war here. So, Mars is very combative. It has got an urge to kind of collect data, and it wants to process the data very quickly. So you have got that hunger to learn everything right now. And maybe we hear a gossip, and without kind of like getting the facts right, we can get into an argument with someone. Instead of asking clarifying questions, we might be attacking. It's very easy to confuse consuming information with taking actual action. Mars in Gemini can make people feel incredibly busy mentally, while their physical reality remains completely stuck. Now, Gemini also represents such things as commerce and even trading. So that could become quite volatile as well, but it kind of feels like it's a bit of a transactional energy. So maybe we want to be rushing a sales through, for example. Maybe it's a quick flip opportunity. For example, it happens in my fourth house. So I'm hoping that Uranus and Mars conjunction is going to bring me a quick sales on my villa that I would like to sell in Thailand. In case you know someone who wants to buy a villa in Koh Samui, do let me know. Drop me a message, an email, because it's a nice villa and I would like to sell it. Okay, so therefore, from a practical point of view, just double check every text, email, or contract before pushing the send button, because Mars here wants to click send before actually proofreading it, and then it could be leading to a massive miscommunication also. And also, I can imagine, that clients of yours might be complaining quite a lot, for example, because again, they might have expected something else. They didn't communicate properly, and so forth. So that's a little bit extra. So I think it's time for us to make some world predictions also, because we need to, right? We all want to know what this energy altogether might bring us. So this could indicate such things as cyber attacks or unexpected systematic infrastructure glitches. So we can get stuck at the airports and so forth. Actually, there could be banking system or banking networking problem, power grid issues, communication satellites can go dark for a brief or an intense period of time. I think this could talk to us about data protection as well, because there is a cancer word involved here, right? It's about protection. I can also imagine, of course, this is going to be a lot about AI and social media. So I can imagine some explosive legal or technological fracture among tech giants. We can see, an unexpected overnight government breakup of an AI monopoly, shocking data leaks. We can also see Pluto is involved, right? Or something that is kind of like trying to manipulate the public opinion. Remember, it's not just a headline, it is actually an official 2-year cycle where something is getting decentralized here, and that would be a communication channel. Neptune in Aries brings that pioneering vision into the picture. I mean, what I'm wondering about is that I read it yesterday that England, or sorry, UK is planning to ban social media channels under age 16. So this is exactly the type of energy pattern that this one talks to us about. So I'm wondering it's in the next 7 years or 2 years, but it's going to start spreading even further. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I mean, do let me know in the chat box below. I've got my views on it, but I understand if someone has got opposing views. Yeah, so it's a difficult question, right? But Australia did it as well, I think, a couple of years ago. Now England or UK is following the suit as well. So let's see how that might be playing out. However, I can also imagine some very big issues around logistical pivots, especially on seas with Neptune or airplane related stuff. So I'm wondering if the trade of the fuel pipelines is going to be disrupted again somehow. Let's see, Uranus and Mars is sitting on that defensive Cancerian rod. So we are trying to protect our goods as much as possible, even with a grand trine. So these are just a short, kind of like overview of what we expect with Uranus and Mars. I mean, do let me know on a personal level. Do you have any planets on 4 or 5 degree of especially the mutable signs? So that would be Pisces, that would be Gemini, Sagittarius, and Virgo. Well, guess what? I've got 3 of those. So 3 planetary energies are getting activated in my chart. So let's see how this Uranus and Mars is going to be playing out. So, by the way, I think, if I'm not mistaken, US has got Gemini on 8, Uranus has got on 8 degree, if on top of my head. Now, I haven't looked at the chart, but I'm thinking that that's definitely the 7th house as well, and Uranus is on 8 degree. So let's see what's going to be going down, of course, in US, but maybe more on that later on. So I'm wondering if anyone has got any questions at all, or how are we doing? How do you guys feel about Chiron moving into the sign of Taurus? Do you feel any type of changes right now? I would like to hear all of those. I've started using a streaming channel and I cannot see the chat. I can see the chats. I found them. So now I can read what you guys are saying. Transiting Uranus and now Mars, opposing my natal Jupiter, Uranus and ascendant. A lot going on, feeling restless. The very positive manifestation of Uranus is about, and this is your time now to ask questions, guys. If you have got any questions, then just go ahead, and I'm very happy to kind of like talk to you about those, okay? But Uranus, it's all about liberation. So once you are able to understand that there is something to break away from, think of Mars as a motivator. It just nags Uranus that it's time to cut the cord. And if you are able to do that, I think this is actually a super, 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 super good conjunction. But of course, often the problem is that we humans have got a tendency to get stuck. Okay, so, and that's often the little bit of a danger here. Also, we can be going into the mythology of Uranus as well, and Uranus. Well, some astrologers say that we shouldn't have called Uranus as Uranus, we should have called it as Prometheus, which I kind of agree. Prometheus was someone who gave fire to the humankind. So Uranus gives you tremendous amount of knowledge because it's the higher octave of Mercury. By the way, I did make a 50 or 1 hour free of charge webinar about Uranus. I think it's called as the Jackpot or the Jolly Joker. Check it up on my YouTube channel. But I give you a lot of additional meanings to Uranus that are often not discussed with others. Okay, so yes, I will be here the entire July, I think almost every day or every second day, because we've got a lot going on and we just have to be kind of like talk about that. Good evening, Erica. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and for for ample amount of knowledge. My pleasure. I'm grateful for your knowledge. Thank you. What about arguments in December, January? Not sure if I understand the question there. Oh, you mean if you had arguments in December and January, those people can come back to you? Absolutely. And one of the reasons is because we had Mercury retrogrades, not necessarily in December and January, but we had Mercury retrograde previously as well. So, and Mercury retrogrades are really tied together. So the previous Mercury retrograde happened in the sign of Pisces, for example, right? So now the upcoming retrograde is going to be happening in the sign of Cancer, and then the following retrograde is going to be happening in Scorpio. So it is all bringing the water signs together. So regardless of whether Mercury is in aspect to Uranus or Mars right now, but from the previous retrograde periods, it could be bringing certain type of challenges back to you as well. You are finishing up some dental work. Virgo here, lots of hiccups happening that is using a lot of money to fix, but I'm blessed to have some savings. Yeah. Remembering Virgo as well that you have got your South Node going through right now, the very last hooray of the South Node and the eclipses. But the eclipses are going to be hanging around for another good 9 months, even though the nodes are moving out of Virgo and Pisces, but they are going to be lingering around for additional about 9 months. So. Okay, so I'm wondering if anyone has got any questions at all, because if you do so, then I can answer them. If not, then this was a slightly bit of a shorter video. So any questions, anyone? Let me see. Chiron moved from my second house to my third. I was having cortisol problems and eating no carbs. This used to work for me, but I started gaining weight before being strict. Had to add back carbs. Okay. What I did was I made a a live video, 2 of them actually, about Chiron moving into the sign of Taurus. And what I did there was I looked at what happened with Chiron in, let's say, first house and what happens with Chiron in the second house. And it's a transition. So if we didn't deal with Chiron in the first house, we are paying the consequences in the second house, in the sign of Taurus. So I recommend listening to that video, because that might be helping you to actually understand what is happening in your chart right now. Okay, so yeah, you might want to be doing that. Okay, guys, so I think that's it for today. New to my channel, welcome, go 001. And I think I'll be back tomorrow as well, and we should be breaking this down for all 12 signs, Uranus and Mars conjunction, okay? So then I'm going to be giving you some very practical ways of working with it. I wanted to do it today, but my doggies wouldn't be happy, because they usually go for a walk around 7 p.m. and one of them is licking my leg. So she's telling me that I need to go out, Daddy. So we are going to do that. Good luck, everyone, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.